Hi, welcome to part 4 of our series on falls from grace and how they've impacted us. And so last week, Paul shared very powerfully how he experienced a fall from grace, and in fact, the part the church played in it, which is very, very interesting because many situations that I dealt with as a counselor dealing with trauma, sexual abuse, and so on, involved people's belief about God and why God didn't help them at a point when they were desperate. And so that's really powerful to sort of bring that piece in of how you could have had a fall from grace in terms of the church or your own thinking about the church or God and so on. Well, this week I want to talk about what do we do when we realize we've had some falls from grace and that they have affected us. And I want to talk first about what happens from the fall from grace. I think we form beliefs about ourselves. It could be that we're not trustworthy, that we're a liar, that we are any number of things, mean, cruel, bad, and whatnot. But beyond those beliefs, and lots of approaches attack those beliefs and help people try to shift those beliefs. But I think it's even more important to understand the meaning you've given it. What meaning have you given the fact that, say, you believe that you are untrustworthy, that you can't be counted on because you had a situation where you weren't? What meaning does that have for you as a person is the key. And so then I think you begin to feel how the meaning kind of like a coating, covers the whole of who you are. It has a much more invasive impact seeping into every nook and cranny. And I think for many people, that's what they suffer from. That really at a deep core level, they feel not enough, not good, not lovable, not valuable, or not free to be who they are, invisible, not even seen. So these are very profound things that then lock in to how we hold ourselves. They become a lens through which we see ourselves, and then from that we behave. And our behavior then reflects how we're seeing ourselves. So if I believe, for example, that I'm, not that smart, which was a belief I had in the old days, and then I'm going to behave in a way that reflects that. I might hold back. I might not put my hand up. I might not feel as confident in certain situations with others that I think are really smart. There's so many ways that can show up. But what ultimately happens, we've found, is these beliefs and the meaning we've given it start to form a very kind of rigid framework, like a shell. And it's the identity of who we think we are. And so we've coined the term constructed identity, that you have constructed and built this identity based on experiences. And that identity becomes quite fixed. And in a sense, then, you're trapped inside that identity, which isn't who you truly are. That's the thing that I think is so important. That was what was revolutionary in the work that I did. When people have experienced terrible trauma, they've locked in that this trauma has fundamentally altered who they are, and that their identity is then based on that. And so really my job seemed to be to just help them cope better, to manage life better, to feel a little better. But it was still within that framework that that's kind of who they were. And when we realized that that actually isn't true, that a constructed identity is something we can actually release. And there's very interesting brain science now coming out about how powerfully we can work with our brains to change the firing of those neural pathways, the thoughts that can overtake people There's fabulous work being done for obsessive compulsive disorders where people start to realize these thinking patterns that seem to take over my life are not me. That's my brain, and I can manage it, and I can start to not sort of run with those thoughts. And when those neural pathways don't keep firing, they they gradually start to melt away. They disintegrate. And so people can get further and further disconnected in a wonderful way from those old patterns and reclaim who they truly are. So when we look at what we can do about it, the first step to me is to realize that I've had these experiences, a profound fall from grace, or a number of them, and that there's some beliefs I have and some feelings and meaning I've given to how I see myself. Now, many people need help then to clear that, to release that. And so if you do, that's the kind of work that we're engaged in. That's what we believe we can offer people. But at least knowing that these have had impact and these have rippled out into your life, you can start to look for where are these things holding us back? And how do I really want to be? Do these beliefs stop me from feeling as open-hearted, as generous, as loving, as spontaneous, as creative as I want to be? Those are the earmarks. When we hold ourselves back, we lose some of our capacity in any and all of those areas. So if you're wanting some support, please be in touch with us. And we would love to give you some help, have a conversation, whatnot. But I hope that just understanding that you can have formed an identity that is in fact constructed and is not a reflection of your authentic self. I hope understanding that can be inspiring, encouraging, and maybe open a door for what your next step might be. All right, that's it for today. I also want to let you know I'm going to be away for most of July, so you're going to be hearing lots more from Paul Johnson, who writes so powerfully and so well, and so you've got lots to look forward to in July, and I'll be back with you in August. All right, take care and keep in touch.